Welcome to Sail Tales. My name is Gary. We're going to talk in this video about scratch building our model sailboats. I'm going to show you how I go about building the removable cabin top for the barrowspace boats. Our project boat here has a cabin structure like the other barrowspace boats. We want to put together a cabin top that will lift out. We're going to assemble the framing for the cabin top right in place inside the opening of the cabin. I first cut out the framing pieces, leaving them just a little bit long. I'll use a sanding block later to make them fit perfectly. I've also used the sanding block to put a slight bevel on the top edge of the side pieces. Let's take a look at a couple of glitches that are right in front of us. The cabin top framing is liable to interfere with that backing piece. Here's a Schooner Irene cabin top where you can see the framing has been cut away. And the same situation on my own sloop Emma. Another wrinkle is that the cabin side slopes in, while we want the cabin top to lift straight up in and out. So I'm going to use painter's tape to form a kind of a shim so that when I clamp the framing piece to the cabin side, the framing piece will stand straight up and down. I'm going to achieve this by laying 2 layers of tape spaced about a 1/4 inch down from the top of the cabin side, and then cover over them with another layer of tape that's brought up even with the top of the cabin walls. Carry that final piece of tape all the way around the cabin. Lay a piece of plastic wrap over the cabin so you can glue the framing together without getting it stuck to the cabin walls. Now you can begin to assemble the framework. Glue a temporary diagonal to the underside of the framing. It's easiest to do this before you put those intermediate beams in place. Take care with the forwardmost cabin top beam. Keep it standing up straight, even though the front of the cabin slopes back. When it's all glued together, you can lift the framing out. Take the tape away and check that the framing fits. It should fit easily in and out of the cabin opening. Now you can clamp the plywood over the framing. I've cut the plywood a little bit over size, and I've made centerline marking on both the plywood and the framing to help line things up. Lay a bead of super glue along the joint between the framing and the plywood, all the way around. When the gluing is done, you can remove the clamps and remove that temporary diagonal. Now you can lay the cabin top on the cabin. I've used a sanding block around the edges of the plywood. I like to let the plywood overhang the cabin sides by about 1/16 of an inch, and I round off the corners a little bit. Now I'm going to drill 2 holes in the front cabin wall in carefully chosen spots. This allows me to glue pins into the cabin top. I'm going to call these plug-in pins because they allow me to plug in the forward end of the cabin top. Here's how it works on the sloop Emma design. When the aft end of the cabin top drops into place, it's held down with a push pin. Call it a push pin because you just push it in and friction keeps it there. On my schooner designs, the cabin openings are tapered. The skinny end is aft, so you'll have to arrange the plug-in pins to be at the aft end of the cabin. I hold down the front end of the schooner cabins with a pair of push pins at the forward corners. The schooner's cargo opening is tapered as well, but the skinny end is forward, so you'll plug in the forward end of that hatch cover. That pretty well wraps it up. You might ask about the materials and the tools. I've been making the framing out of these paint stir sticks that are given away by my local home supply store. To show my appreciation, I buy painting supplies from them as well. If these sticks were not available to me, I'd probably rip pieces out of a pine board. The framing should be at least 1/8 of an inch thick and cut from a fairly sturdy wood. The plug-in pins I like to make out of either brass or stainless rod, a 1/16 or 3/32 in diameter. The push pins are best made out of stainless wire, no bigger than 1/16 of an inch in diameter. Tools for this project are pretty simple. I use this saw to cut out all the parts. It's an old part of a hacksaw blade set in an old paintbrush handle. Drill the holes with a twist drill held in this holder that's known as a pin vise. You turn it with your fingers. My sanding block is nothing more than a block of wood with a piece of 100-grit sandpaper wrapped around it. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give us a thumbs up. That'll let us know. Happy boat building out there.